Hi, I'm Dr. Sono. Welcome to A News. Here are the top stories. Anthony Albanese secures win for Labour at federal election in Australia. Drones hit an apartment block in Ukraine's Kharkiv, injuring more than 40 people. Ministers evaluate energy markets at the Istanbul Natural Resources Summit. Voters across Australia have delivered their verdict in a high-stakes federal election shaped by economic pressures and political uncertainty. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's Labour Party has secured another term, as early results show a shift away from the Conservative opposition.
Voting has closed in Australia's most populous eastern states, including Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and the capital Canberra, with polls in Western Australia closing 2 hours later. Early counting showed Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's centre-left Labour Party in a strong position, with broadcasters Sky News Australia, Seven and the Australian Broadcasting Corporation projecting a Labour victory.
In this time of global uncertainty, Australians have chosen optimism and determination. Australians have chosen to face global challenges the Australian way, looking after each other while building for the future.
Labour Party was shown to have secured a majority, defeating the Conservative Liberal National Coalition, led by Peter Dutton. The results suggest a nationwide swing away from Dutton's coalition, with Dutton himself losing his seat of Dixon and conceding defeat. He confirmed he had called Albanese to congratulate him. The election campaign was dominated by concerns over the soaring cost of living, crumbling public health care, unaffordable housing and the impact of an unpredictable US President Donald Trump's policies. While Labour had trailed in polls earlier this year, it closed the campaign with a narrow lead. Celebrations erupted at Labour headquarters in Sydney as supporters marked the victory. Though Labour is projected to govern in its own right, the final shape of Parliament may be influenced by a range of independents and left-wing Greens, particularly in the event of a closer-than-expected outcome in some districts.
Voters in Singapore also headed to the polls on Saturday morning. Over 1,200 polling stations were set up across the city-state. This election is seen as a key test for the ruling People's Action Party, led by Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. Singapore's fourth Prime Minister, who took office last year, has promised both continuity and change. While the PAP is expected to retain power, its share of the popular vote will be closely watched, after a record low of just over 60% in 2020. Russia launched a large-scale drone assault on Kharkiv late on Friday, striking a high-rise apartment building and setting off fires across Ukraine's second-largest city. At least 46 people were injured, and authorities warned that the toll could rise. Firefighters battled heavy smoke and flames at multiple sites. Meanwhile, Russian defense officials claim they shot down 10 drones over their own territory, including the Bryansk region. The mayor of the Russian port city of Novorossiysk declared a state of emergency on Saturday after he said a Ukrainian drone attack had damaged the residential buildings and injured at least 5 people, including 2 children. The mayor announced his decision on his official Telegram account, which showed him inspecting the damage of apartment buildings and giving orders to officials. Kravchenko said one woman was in hospital in a serious situation. There was no immediate comment from Ukraine. Germany's Alternative für Deutschland party has been designated as right-wing extremist by the country's Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution. This will allow authorities to step up their surveillance. AfD, which came second in the February general election, said it would challenge the decision in court.
Germany's domestic intelligence agency has classified the far-right AfD party as extremist. Interior Minister Nancy Faeser stated that this decision enables authorities to monitor the party using covert methods, like informants and surveillance.
Die AfD ist als gesichert rechtsextremistische Partei.
The previous assessment of the AfD as a suspected right-wing extremist organisation has been confirmed by the courts. The new assessment will certainly also be reviewed by the courts. In a constitutional state, independent courts decide in the end.
In his likely last public speech, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz opposed hasty party ban decisions and reminded that the Federal Constitutional Court has rejected all such petitions in recent years. Came just days before Friedrich Merz was set to take office, and amid debates on how to handle AfD in the new parliament.
In other words, the new assessment by the Domestic Intelligence Agency shows that we are a democracy with defences and have legal instruments to protect our democracy against extremist threats. This includes observation and evaluation by the Domestic Intelligence Agency, as is the case here. We should always separate these legal instruments from the necessary political debate.
The BFV has classified AfD as an extremist threat to democracy, citing its ethnically based concept of the nation and unequal treatment of migrant origin citizens. This decision, made just before Friedrich Merz became Chancellor, has intensified debates about AfD. Despite winning a record number of seats, AfD still needs support from other parties. Analysts warn that being labelled extremist could boost its popularity.
Prince Harry says he wants to reconcile with the royal family, but claims his father, King Charles, won't speak to him due to an ongoing dispute over security. He shared emotional thoughts during an interview following his latest legal defeat in the UK.
Some of my family.
Prince Harry says he still hopes for peace with his family, but that a 5-year conflict over security remains a major obstacle. Speaking just hours after losing a court battle over his police protection, the Duke of Sussex said King Charles has stopped communicating with him.
I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile.
Harry, who stepped down from royal duties in 2020, now lives in California with his wife Meghan and their children. He says he no longer feels safe bringing his family to the UK and feels unfairly singled out.
No matter how much private security I have around me. So, I've been treated very, very, very differently to everybody else that exists. All examples that exist, past, present, I have been singled out.
Despite past tensions, Harry says he can forgive many things, but the removal of his security in 2020 still weighs heavily. He emphasised that, in the end, this is a family matter, one he hopes can still be resolved.
Vatican workers have installed the iconic chimney on the Sistine Chapel ahead of the May 7th conclave, which will elect a successor to Pope Francis. Francis died on April the 21st after serving as the first pontiff from the Americas since 2013. The chimney is used to signal the outcome of each voting round. Its smoke will relay the cardinal's decision to the world, black for no result, white for the election of the new pope. Roughly 133 cardinals, nearly 80% appointed by Francis, will vote in this highly secretive process. The chimney is clearly visible from St. Peter's Square, where crowds are expected to watch for the smoke signals. The last two conclaves in 2005 and 2013 concluded within 2 days. At least 6 people were killed and more than 50 others were injured in a stampede at an Indian temple in the western coastal state of Goa, where hundreds of devout Hindus had assembled. The incident occurred during the early hours of Saturday as the devotees took part in a procession during the annual Sri Lai Rai Jatra festival, which is popular for its events including firewalking. Authorities say they are investigating the cause of the stampede. As trade tensions escalate between the United States and China, communication between the two powers has become so strained they can't agree on whether talks are even happening. Beijing says it's evaluating a U.S. proposal to resume negotiations, while President Trump intensifies his hardline stance with tariffs exceeding 145%. China has vowed to fight to the end, responding with heavy tariffs and countermeasures against United States industries. To help unpack these developments, we are joined by Gustavo de Aristegui, former Spanish diplomat, politician. Mr. Aristegui, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mr. Aristegui, Beijing says it's evaluating Washington's offer to restart trade talks. What exactly does that signal, and how serious is China about returning to the table?
You've got to understand that China is the most export-driven economy in the world, only seconded by Japan and Germany in second and third place. But the vital essence of exports for China is obvious. So the tariff war is hurting their economy extremely. Right now, with the extreme weakness also of some of the Chinese banks, the need of an agreement with the United States is essential to their growth because it has been weaker than forecasted. And the Chinese authorities know that they mustn't look weak before the negotiation, but they have to show some kind of readiness to sit at the table and reach some kind of agreement. Of course, it's not going to be a it's not going to be a free trade agreement as we have the United States had, and I want to stress that, with Mexico and Canada, or the European Union has with so many of its partners, but it's going to be much better than 145%. And again, this is creating lots of shockwaves in the world economy and geo-economic. This is a complete disaster. It is hurting the value chain of products, and it's also hurting the supply chain. You have to understand, for example, that when products in the United States and Canada, I am sitting here very close to the Canadian border in the north of the state of New York, some components of automotives cross the border dozens of times before they are installed definitively in the final product. This is exactly the same with the Chinese products that come to the West. So the sooner this happens, the better for all of us.
So with tariffs now as high as 145%, what is expected impact on China's key export sectors?
Well, as I said before, the key China exports have been basically manufactured products. And there must be some kind of window that the Chinese are looking for, because their new star export is, of course, solar panels, energy batteries, I mean industrial scale batteries that are used for large solar farms, not large enough yet. That is basically Western technologies, United States and European mostly. But of course, the new automobile industry of China has been put on standby, because of course the only way that they had to compete with the better Western automobiles, be it Tesla, I'm talking about electrics, of course, or the European electric vehicles, is with a lower price. And these madly high tariffs are killing their market. So they have to find some kind of compromise by probably allowing the West for some leeway for their products in China that have been blocked with tariff barriers. And by making trade with the West extremely complicated, trying to favor their own exports, so they will have to make some kind of concession so that their automobile industry doesn't die before it's born.
Has vowed to fight to the end. What does that mean in practical terms? And beyond tariffs, what other countermeasures could China realistically take?
Well, of course, China has already started to show its claws, but China has other geostrategic tools that have been used to date, and actually the use of these geostrategic geoeconomic tools have been intensified in the past. And let me give some examples. First, for example, China is the second largest detentor of United States bonds. Of course, they cannot massively sell what they have as American public debt, because that would hurt their economy as much as they would hurt the American economy. But they've been doing it in a very strategic and smart way. They've been selling the bonds in the market distantly and constantly, and this has made the interest rates of the American 10-year and 20-year bond rise dramatically, which has very seriously affected the capacity of the American Treasury to pay its debt. It has increased the service of the debt, and that is a huge burden for the federal budget. Second, the Chinese have also been expanding their influence in different parts of the world. Right now, they have the mining rights of some of the most rich underground wealth countries in the world. They have the mining rights of Chile, of Bolivia, of Peru, and even Argentina. As far as lithium and other critical raw materials are concerned, they have the mining rights of lithium in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. They are seeking for critical raw materials in Africa. Right now, they have replaced the United States, France, and Canada as #1 buyers of uranium of the Sahel. And the Chinese right now are trying also to exert power, control, and even choking possibilities for some of the most important passageways for the international trade traffic. Look at the Panama Canal. On both ends of the canal, the Chinese semi-private companies actually owned by the state are buying companies and facilities so that they could eventually use them as a choking point or a blocking point. And even, as you know, both ports on both ends of the canal are controlled by a Hong Kong company that was trying to sell its interests to American investors and was seriously admonished by the Chinese authorities, saying that they would not accept that those port interests be sold to anybody else but another Chinese company. And lastly, they have been building a huge air and naval base at the Bab el-Mandab Strait, specifically on the Djibouti side of the strait, so that they can control one of the passageways that is essential for Western trade, because it is the route that gives passage towards the Red Sea and therefore to the Suez Canal. So as you see, there are other means of pressure that the Chinese may exert, but right now they are in a much bigger hurry than anybody else, because of course all of these other things that they have are medium and long-term tools, whereas the needs for financing and exports in China are very, very short-term.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Rauchtege, thank you very much for talking to A News. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
I'm very happy to be with you. Thank you so much.
Georgia is upgrading its infrastructure, seeking to boost the Middle Corridor, which is the route connecting China and Europe. The call for investor proposals closed in April. Our correspondent Nini Nikolashvili has the latest from Tbilisi.
Georgia will choose an investor for its strategic Conclave deep sea port within the next month. The Economy Minister Levent Davitashvili confirmed this on Thursday as the country positions itself at the heart of growing competition over Eurasian trade routes. The deadline for proposals closed in April. According to Davitashvili, the project is not just national infrastructure push, but a cornerstone for Middle Corridor, a vital transit route linking Asia and Europe through the South Caucasus. He said that the development of this project was focused during recent talks in the United States, underscoring its importance in strengthening transport cooperation between US and Georgia. Amid speculations over Chinese involvement, Davitashvili stressed that the project remains under firm Georgian control, with possible private partner pegged by 49%. The speculation damages the project and misleads the public, he said, and noted that national interest remains fully secured. The nuclear port's significance extends beyond economics as the regional partners view to shape future trade routes. The port could shift Georgia's geopolitical standing, reducing Russian-dominated corridors and strengthening ties with its Western partners. We are ready for all alternatives and have very strong proposals, Davitashvili noted. As the partner is selected, the construction is expected to move quickly. It's Nini Nikolaishvili, reporting from Tbilisi, News.
A spectacular show of skill and speed filled the skies over Nicosia today as part of Technofest 2025, the prominent aviation, astronautics and technology festival. The roar of engines and the precision of flight took center stage in Nicosia as the Turkish stars Turkey's renowned aerobatic squadron performed a breathtaking air show during Technofest 2025. Flying the iconic F-5 fighter jets, the team dazzled thousands of attendees with their tight formations, sharp maneuvers and synchronized aerial artistry. The demonstration drew enthusiastic applause and widespread admiration from visitors of all ages. Technofest 2025, now in its 11th edition, has become a hub for innovation and inspiration in aviation, astronautics and cutting-edge technology. The event runs through May the 4th and is backed by the Presidential Administration of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, Turkey's Ministry of Industry and Technology, and the Turkish Technology Team Foundation. Turkey is stepping up its efforts to become a regional energy trade hub, aiming to capitalize on its renewable energy potential, nuclear developments and strategic location. At the Istanbul Natural Resources Summit, officials from Turkey and several partner countries discussed major energy initiatives and deepening regional cooperation. Turkish Energy and Natural Resources Minister Alparslan Bayraktar outlined Turkey's vision to position itself as a central energy trade hub, utilizing its strong transmission infrastructure and extensive interconnection capacity with neighboring countries. Speaking at the Istanbul Natural Resources Summit, Bayraktar said the country is working to establish a trading exchange for electricity, natural gas, and commodities at the Istanbul Finance Center. To support this goal, Turkey plans to expand its solar and wind energy capacity to 120,000 megawatts by 2035, develop offshore wind projects and push forward unconventional oil and gas production, particularly in the eastern province of Diyarbakir and the northwestern Thrace region. Bayraktar also emphasized Turkey's growing international energy partnerships. Alongside ongoing collaborations with Azerbaijan, Iraq and Russia, he noted that new projects are in the pipeline and energy diplomacy is actively being pursued in Libya, Iraq, Pakistan and the Caspian region. Azerbaijani Energy Minister Pervez Shahbazov highlighted his country's long-standing energy partnership with Turkey. He confirmed that Azerbaijan will continue supplying natural gas to Turkey, aiming to increase annual deliveries to around 10 billion cubic meters. Shahbazov underscored Turkey's dual role as both a central and transit country in energy distribution, enabling Azerbaijani gas to reach 10 European countries. From Libya, Minister of Oil and Gas Khalifa Abdul Sadiq spoke about recent progress in oil and gas production. Libya currently produces 1.4 million barrels of oil per day, and the government expects these to rise to 1.5 million by the end of year. Abdul Sadiq said Libya has 22 licensed oil and gas regions, 11 offshore and 11 onshore, many of which are located near existing production fields and are well positioned for market access. Syrian Energy Minister Mohammed al-Bashir addressed the challenges facing Syria's post-war energy sector. He noted that electricity supply in Damascus, once limited to just 1 hour daily, has now reached 5 hours. The government is working to rehabilitate power plants with a goal of reaching 5,000 megawatts of capacity. Al-Bashir added that solar and wind energy projects are being fast-tracked, with several expected to be completed by next weekend. Turkey is edging closer to a historic energy milestone. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced that the country will begin trial electricity production at its first nuclear power plant by the end of this year. The announcement was made during the Natural Resources Summit in Istanbul. The Baku nuclear power plant, Turkey's first ever nuclear energy facility, is nearing completion with the first reactor almost ready. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said during his speech at the Natural Resources Summit that the plant will begin trial production and deliver its first electricity to the national grid by the end of 2025.
Bu yıl sonunda deneme üretimine başlayıp Akkuyu'dan ilk elektriği vereceğiz.
By the end of this year, we will begin trial production and deliver the first electricity from Akuyu. With the completion of the other reactors, the Akuyu nuclear power plant is expected to operate at full capacity in 2028. With this, our natural gas imports will decrease by 7 billion cubic meters. This means savings of $2.5 billion.
İthalatımız yıllık 7 milyar metreküp azalacak.
The Akuyu project, launched in 2017, represents a cornerstone in Turkey's drive for energy independence and diversification. Once fully operational, the plant is expected to significantly reduce the country's reliance on imported energy and reinforce national energy security. President Erdogan also shared insights into Turkey's expanding energy diplomacy. Among the notable developments, production is set to begin this year at a newly licensed gold field in Niger, marking Turkey's growing investment footprint in Africa. In the broader international arena, Erdogan noted strengthening energy ties with Pakistan, Indonesia and Malaysia and announced a joint bidding agreement with Hungary's MOL company for 3 new energy fields in Hungary. Additionally, Turkey has finalized liquefied natural gas supply agreements with 2 major energy companies based in the United Kingdom and France, with deliveries set to begin in 2027. Domestically, Turkey continues to break new ground. Erdogan highlighted that daily oil production has exceeded 135,000 barrels as of the end of March 2025, setting a new record for the nation. Now to Afghanistan, where the latest UN Development Program reports paints of a grim picture of rising inequality, poverty and the collapse of essential services in the country. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
A new UN report shows that Afghanistan experienced modest GDP growth of 2.7% in 2023 and 2024, the first since 2019, but warns that recovery remains fragile. The country's trade deficit rose sharply to $6.7 billion, driven by weak domestic production and limited job creation. Food insecurity worsened in 2024, with 75% of the population subsistence insecure, up 6% from the previous year. 9 in 10 households reported cutting daily consumption to cope. Restriction on women's education and employment have deepened the crisis, widening the gender gap and projected to cost the economy nearly $920 million by 2026. The UNDP is urging targeted long-term support, including for women-led businesses and social protection. A separate report by the U.S. Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction warns that the suspension of U.S. aid is worsening conditions. Without renewed funding, up to 7 million people could lose access to health care, with severe shortages of female health workers, putting thousands of women and children at risk. While trade and connectivity with regional partners are improving, both reports stress the urgent need for international re-engagement to avert further human suffering. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
Baku's historic İçeri Şehir is alive with color and culture as the International Carpet Festival celebrates the art and heritage of carpet weaving from Azerbaijan and around the world. The festival brings together experts, designers and manufacturers from Azerbaijan and abroad, featuring exhibitions, masterclasses, interactive performances, live music and pavilions showcasing global carpet weaving traditions. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the İçeri Şehir's UNESCO World Heritage status and the 15th anniversary of Azerbaijani carpet weaving's inclusion in the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage list. Celebrations continue throughout the weekend with traditional displays and activities for children.
This
This is a large-scale and amazing festival. I'm very grateful to Azerbaijan. It is a very friendly country that generously shares its experience and professionalism. Azerbaijan is world-renowned for its carpet-weaving traditions. We also hope that in the future our descendants will be proud of us for contributing to the revival of carpet weaving in the Republic of Tatarstan.
We are here in Baku for the first time as part of an international women's project. We live in Astana and today decided to attend the festival to support our home country, Kazakhstan.
Well, that's all we have for now from Baku. Stay tuned to A News for more updates.